On this episode of Off the Beaten Path, you'll come with us to fly RC planes, travel to the Gray Towers, take a tour of Bube's Brewery, and find out what we did at Hazelton's Fun Fest. Pennsylvania's filled with interesting things. You just need to know where to look. So come with us right now as we go off the beaten path. Hello, welcome to another awesome episode of Off the Beaten Path, the show that shows you Pennsylvania you never knew existed. Today, we're in the beer garden of Bube's Brewery in Mount Joy.
Very, very cool place. And the neat thing about this place is almost everywhere you go in the restaurant, brewery, the bar, it's linked to the old brewery that was built in the 1800s. And there's just pieces of history all over. Now, Jeff, you spent some time downstairs, actually underground in the catacombs, upstairs in the bar area, as well as also part of the restaurant and the old hotel.
Bube's Brewery, an intact 19th century brewery and museum complex, is packed with history. The owner, Samuel Allen, gave us a guided tour through the whole complex, and let me tell you, this place is unique.
Mr. Bube, he came here from Bavaria in 1869 when he was 18 years old. He was one of hundreds of young southern Germans that were flooding over this country to brew lager beer. I've heard of some of them, Friedrich Miller, Adolf Coors, Friedrich Pabst, Adolphus Busch. These are contemporaries of Mr. Bube. Some of literally hundreds of other young Germans that came over, opened breweries all over the country. Only a few of them are left. Some of the ones I just mentioned are still in business. But Mr. Bube did what all the rest of them did, build a brewery with a little hotel. What I love about our place is, when Adolf Coors went to Colorado to build a brewery, this is what he tended to make, what you're seeing here. Breweries of the 1800s didn't survive very well looking like they did back then. There are lots of breweries that date back that far, but they don't look like they did in the 1880s and 1890s. That's what our place does. It looks almost exactly like it did in 1880, 1890, and that makes it very, very special and unique. So come with me, we'll take a look around. These are the conditioning tanks of the old brewery. Up here you're going to pass the mash tun. If this was a winery, that'd be where they'd crush the grapes, but since it's a brewery, that's where they soaked malt in hot water and got the beer started that way. All the parts of the brewery are still here, which is sort of what makes it fun. You can explore around what it would have been like to be inside of a brewery in the 1880s.
Even though much of the old brewery remains, and many of the beer styles served follow traditional recipes, the craft beers produced here are made in their modern facility.
So we brew beer here in the premises at the brewery, but we use, our brewery is about 1/10 the size of the original brewery. We brew enough beer just to keep our own pub and our own business active. Not unlike in Germany, a lot of breweries have beer gardens there. We thought it would be wonderful to have our own little outdoor beer serving area here, and you can sit here and get a beer and a pretzel just like you could have in Germany hundreds of years earlier. There's the boiler that used to be the power plant of the brewery. This brewery is from the Industrial Revolution and predates electricity, so they didn't have electric to run their machines and pumps and cook their beer. They used steam.
In addition to checking out the old brewery and restaurant areas, we also took a look at the hotel and bar room, almost unchanged from the Victorian era.
What we use it really a lot for now is our murder mystery dinners. Like if you came on Saturday night, this Saturday we'll be doing a murder mystery dinner. We often fill the place, and all the different rooms we have actors and actors that help create a murder mystery dinner. It's about a 3-hour dinner, and the show is the dinner, so to speak. And you feel like you're part of an event going on. You're either during the Civil War. We have a Civil War one. We have one during the 20s when this place was a speakeasy. We have several different versions of our murder mystery stories. We want to be a bit of a show, even if you just come and get a beer and a pretzel in our beer garden. There's something to look at, something to entertain you. And if you want to take it a step further, you come to our feast in the catacombs or a murder mystery dinner here in the old hotel, and you can get a real more complete theater experience in a very unique environment. We love that because it's not just seeing a show on a stage. You're in it. You're on the stage. You're in the stage.
The tour up to this point has been a fascinating look back in time, but what came next really made our trip worthwhile, going deep underground into the catacombs.
We serve dinner down here, all candlelit at night, of course, but the Catacombs restaurant. But it's inside of the old lagering cellars of this old brewery. I think one of the interesting aspects of the idea of cellars, catacombs, is that brewers coming over from, like Alois Bube, coming from Germany, had to find a place, a suitable place to have a cellar, because that was real key. You couldn't have a brewery if you couldn't have a cellar. You had to have it. So they generally had two choices. One choice was to locate on a hillside, like a lot of breweries over in Germany. The Yuengling Brewery is a real good example of that in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Here, this brewery got put here because they had a cave, and if you could find either a good hill to dig into where the rock was appropriate, or find an already existing cave, you could have a brewery. Slaves were apparently hidden in these caves before the Civil War. This didn't really become the catacombs until after the Civil War. Like I said, when the brewery started here in the 1850s, we think they just used the cave as it was. So, yeah, the story in town here is that these caverns were a good spot to hide slaves on their way working north. Currently, we use the catacombs as a restaurant, and we're very lucky. Most times, if you go this deep in the ground, you would have lots of water, meaning if it rained, it'd get all wet. But we're very dry. There's just enough buildings above it, and enough drainage upstairs that we don't have water down here. So we're able, unlike most places with cellars like this, to use this as a restaurant. So we have tables, and we serve a fine dining kind of restaurant experience here, and it's open 7 nights a week. And for those that like a unique place to dine and a good menu, we try very hard to make good food. Catacombs is a great restaurant to eat in. It's open every evening. The other thing we do down here, which is taking it a step further, is we do a feast, which is a theatrical dinner, and that is a dinner where you feel like you're at a dinner in some sort of historic or entertaining setting. For example, we do a medieval feast, which is you're made to feel like you were at a medieval holiday dinner, which was a very common thing in medieval times, to throw a big feast at a holiday. And the catacombs is a neat way to use that, because it's such a theatrical looking space already that we take it a step further, like I said, make you feel like you're actually in some ancient or historic setting.
There is so much to see at Bube's Brewery that for me, it deserves a return trip without the camera. I plan on attending a feast in the catacombs and will definitely be returning to sample their craft beers. Their India Pale Ale, for one, is fantastic. If you'd like to know more, check them out online at boobysbrewery.com. So if you go, make sure you tell them Off the Beaten Path sent you. Coming up next on Off the Beaten Path, Chris visits the Gray Towers.